Welcome for this new episode of Inspiring People. Today I have two guests of Rwanda, Rahim and Ineza, and we're gonna speak about what pets are teaching us as human beings. So welcome here, and can you briefly introduce yourselves?
My name is Rahim. I'm the founder of a company called Pets where we offer pet care services. And I started the company in 2016. And we have today a clinic and a dog training facility. And the reason I opened is because there was not a lot of good quality and not enough variety of services and products for pets. And because the industry wasn't really existent, so that's why I am here to make sure that people know more about pets and everything.
Yeah. And my name is Ineza. So I'm a self-taught dog behaviorist and also work with Pets since 2017. Yeah.
And how did you start working with pets? So what's your journey working with pets? Yeah.
So I've always kind of like loved animals. I've always definitely loved animals. But especially dogs, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think it really started when I was a kid, and because my parents wouldn't let me bring a dog at home, so I was really just befriending the street dogs around and things like that, and but then it got to a point where there were many around the city, so the government decided to do this program where they did like a poisoning program to get rid of the street dogs. Yeah. And
didn't know.
kind of like I lost all my dogs then.
So
that's when I really started like begging my mom to let us bring a dog at home, and she asked us to give her 10 reasons why she should let us bring a dog at home. And me and my brother, we only came up with 2, so she said no, but that was kind of like the trigger. So I started really going around asking people who had dogs, my friends who have dogs, why they have dogs, and that's kind of how I got interested in it.
Yeah.
So I started like watching videos on YouTube, reading books I could find, and practicing on my friends' dogs. But then, lots of trial and error. But 2016, that's when I really started doing it like professionally. And then a bit after, that's when I met him and we started working together.
Yeah. Okay. And you, Rahim, what's your journey then? Starting to work with pets. Yeah.
It started here in Rwanda. I was born here, so I grew up here with the dogs at home, but they were mostly, the mentality here is, you keep dogs in cages or in doghouse.
Yeah.
And then they are mostly used for protection, right? But for us, it was a mix of protection, but also pets. But I remember I was small, these dogs were big, but I was still brave enough to go and pet them. But yes, my mom was scared, so I couldn't do as much, but they were always around me. So yeah, I had dogs growing up in Kigali. I had dogs growing up in Bujumbura. I had cats in Belgium. I lived in Belgium. I had cats there. I used to be the one taking care of them, feeding them and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also had parrots. So I had already grown up there, and then I moved to Toronto, and I didn't have a pet for many, many years until I finally ended up getting a dog. It was a dog that I adopted, and that has changed my life. Today she's not here with us anymore, but so I had one dog, and I got a second one, and then I had fish. So I had all types of pets in my life. And so just that dog that I had is I started training her a little bit, and then also I, because I was traveling a lot, I was going to my sister in Kampala, for example. She had many dogs, and they would fight, and it was really bad. So I was trying to
Yeah.
understand, how do you solve the fighting? How do you separate dogs? How do you prevent? And that's how I really got into the whole training
Yeah.
part of it. I got really interested. And but since I was a kid, I always had a thing for animals. Like for example, in Belgium, one day I had a dog following me all the way home, right? And then we found the owner. So, and these things happen actually multiple times in my life. And so I already knew I had a connection with animals, and I already knew I had something to do with animals. And but yeah, one thing led to another. After I went for my trip in Kampala, seeing all these dog fights, I came back to Toronto and I saw this guy, a dog trainer, on
Mm-hmm.
TV, and he was very big and very popular, and he looked like me. So I figured this is what I'm supposed to do. So I ended up studying for dog. I actually took a dog training course
Okay.
in North America. Yeah, so I graduated with that, and then I decided to come here in Rwanda and to start a business, and not thinking I'm going to work into the pet industry. But then I realized there is nothing here, right?
Yeah.
So again,
True.
that was kind of the trigger to go into that industry and make a career out of it, not just for fun, because it was really just for fun, for
Okay.
personal reasons that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do this. But then I realized there's a huge need here, and yeah, so that's where we are today now.
Amazing. I think I'll share a bit of my story too with pets, if it's okay for you guys. But
Yeah.
so my first pets, I got them in Rwanda. So it's kind of the link also between us. It's that I took the services of Pets Plus and then we became friends. But so my mother has asthma, so we never had pets at home. And I got my first cat when I arrived in Rwanda. And then I got my first dog. And yeah, we're gonna talk about how pets change your life because yeah, it was huge teachings for me. And it's also why I wanted to talk about this topic here. I'll just also say quickly what's Luminescence TV because it's the first show in English. So it's the inspiring web TV of a fearless traveler. And we're talking about a lot of different topics during the interviews. It can be eco-construction, the use of plants, talking about pets and what they teach us for today as well. And I'm interviewing people that do what they're doing with their hearts. And yeah, it's why we're here today. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you. Do you think you can talk about the context in Rwanda? So you already mentioned the dog poisoning stuff and yeah, that there weren't proper services for pets. But can you maybe talk a bit more about this?
So yeah, I guess what I can start with is there were some vets, some dog trainers, some dog walkers here, but there is no veterinarian school, for example, for
Oh,
domestic animals. Even till
yeah.
today, they don't have one
Wow.
here in Rwanda. So most people that study that practice veterinary medicine are actually livestock
Mm-hmm.
vets.
Okay.
So they're really practicing on people's pets, right? And that is not good, right? They're not really qualified to do it here. And then there's also a lot of people that studied in Kenya, for example, or around East Africa for dog training, and then they come here and then they use these methods here. But it, it, it's also very, how can I say this? Because we're dog trainers, and the reason why we are so different in Rwanda is because we don't use any abusive methods. We don't use any
Mm,
negative methods. We don't use
that's true.
anything that causes pain and fear to a dog when we train them. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody here that was training dogs here were using these kind of methods.
Okay.
So I had to change that. I wanted to change this. I wanted to change the way the vet practice is. And I wasn't here long enough to see how bad the situation was when, in the beginning. Um, and but it was enough to see that a lot of dogs and cats were dying under procedures,
Okay.
or they go for training and they become more aggressive, so it wasn't really professional.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was no proper clinic and vet clinic and vet hospitals here either. There was maybe some mini locations there, but most of the vet practices, the people would come to your house and do stuff, like
Oh,
even
yeah.
surgery, which is not sterile, which is actually dangerous.
Yeah.
And if anything happens, for example, when you put a dog on anesthesia, they may have trouble, and there is nothing to fix it. So a lot of dogs would just go in the surgery. It could have been avoided, So there was a lot of disasters.
Yeah.
And then when I brought one of my dogs here in Kigali in 2015, sorry, I realized, which vet am I going to go to? Who's going to take care of my dog if I have to go away? And when I realized there's a huge hole there that we need to fix. So yeah, there was really nothing, and it wasn't professional enough. We didn't have the materials, we didn't have enough accessories, enough dog food. If there was something crazy expensive or bad quality, if it was cheap, it was very limited. So 95% of the stuff were imported. People would bring it from their own country and use them. So there was really nothing here, really nothing for pets. Very little. It was very basic.
Ineza, do you want to add something?
Just kind of like going back a little bit to maybe when I was a kid, it's like Rwandans have always been fairly respectful to animals in general, but their relationship has always been to dependent on the usefulness of those animals. So when you keep dogs again, it's can they go on a hunt with them? Before, when it was still kind of like allowed, so they were using them for hunting, they would still really respect them in that sense, and they would still feed them, obviously try to do the best they can for them. And same thing with like cats, for example, if it was mainly kept just to get rid of the rats and all that. So in that sense, they would they would kind of like take care of them so that they can also do their duties in a way. But there was no kind of that affection you have with a pet. They would just respect them as animals that do something for them.
Yeah, it was more for practical use. It was not really for companionship, right? Like we have in North America, in Europe, in Asia, right? So that's why the pet care was also different. When pet owners, when our dog is a little bit sick or has a little injury, we start panicking,
So I think also culturally it's different because, for example, in my culture, having pets, it's really for the affection and not for the use. Like the use for us is the affection they bring us and we bring to them. So it's really different than the point of view in Rwanda.
I think it's just a different type of culture. So in that sense, I feel like Rwandans have always cared and have always done what they do right. It's just that now it's really shifting. So before it was just hunting. So when they were hunting, they would make sure the dogs are really good, their paws are healthy and things like that. And their teeth is okay, things like that. Remember, they would always check for those things, and eventually they became for security and things like that. So then that comes with its own things, and now slowly getting to companionship, and that's why we're seeing a lot of demand for our services now.
Okay, it's really interesting to see it in that point of view. Really, I'm happy to learn a bit more from the point of view of someone that's from Rwanda. Rahim, do you want to add something? Or
Um, yeah, I want to talk also about there is something that we need to also mention here is a bit of the history with dogs here.
Mm.
During the 94 genocide, there was dogs were viewed as a very negative thing because they would see dogs eating bodies, right? And to a lot of people, obviously, that is very traumatizing. You associate this animal as this thing, not this friend, not this companion, not this uh, not someone that you think you can be friend with. Instead, you're scared of it. So that fear has actually was already existing before, but it just became worse, and then it went from generation to the next generation, right? So instead of, for example, people telling their kids, instead of people having dogs and see how they can be good, they would just tell stories to their kids,
Oh,
right?
okay.
And then you know it's already in their head that dogs are bad, right?
Mm.
So we here are trying to change to shift the whole way of seeing these animals. This is actually one of our number one goal in the company is to change the way people see it, and that's why we offer those types of services so that for those that do want and do understand this or that will understand this will have a place to go, right? Because if they don't have an option, then they will never change, right? So for especially for training, maybe Inez, I can emphasize on this, but the training demand here versus what we were offering, it wasn't matching. Until today, it's still a huge challenge. Customer will ask, I want my dog to be aggressive,
Oops.
right? But then they don't know how to handle their own dogs,
Yeah.
right? Then who's gonna handle them? And then they just stay in the cage all day. So I don't know if you can find a good example maybe of what else people are asking
Oh, yeah,
versus
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, to see. Me, it's the
I
contrary. I
mean,
want my dog not
it's
to be
even like
aggressive.
really small things. So
Yeah.
like even if you're walking your dog, for example, around, then you will meet like a mom with her child, and then she will start being like, "Oh, if you don't do this, I'll make the dog bite you," for example. So because
Mm.
that's how they associate them, and now the kid grows up being threatened with a dog, so whenever they see a dog, they react that way. So
Mm.
really like small things like that are now changing slowly. So really, I would say like maybe 4 years ago, it was always like that. You would walk even a puppy like this size, and people are jumping in the road and things like that to get away from it. But now
Yeah.
it's really changing. Now you're meeting more people, and they're telling their kids, "Oh, look at this cute dog a little bit," and they're like, "Do you want to pet the
Uh,
dog?" And it's a
yeah.
lot. I feel like just having dogs out there in a different state of mind, that also just people watching you interact with your dog again, that changes a lot from that perspective too.
right?
Yeah.
So we
It's
have a
really
lot of dog
interesting.
walkers, for example, right?
Yeah.
All over Kigali, and then so there's a lot of dog walkers walking around everywhere, and
Mm.
that creates exposure for the general population to see that, oh, this is happening. And before it was maybe once in a while, but now it's you see it everywhere in
Yeah.
Kigali, you see
Yeah.
it
It's
every
true.
day, all day, people walking their dogs, which 4 years, 5 years ago was barely existent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that also has shifted. Also, a lot of people come back to the country, diasporas, a lot of foreigners are coming here. They're coming with their pets because now they are confident, they have a place to go.
Mm-hmm.
So now you see the boom in people having dogs and cats as pets. Some of
Yeah.
them, many of them still are in the phase of the practicality of the animal, but then they are,
Mm.
because now they understand that they should not beat and cage them, so they start actually caring for these dogs and cats. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what's changing. So even those that still have that mentality a bit old school are actually changing right now as we are speaking.
Yeah. It's
So the
really
future
good.
looks bright.
Yeah. Amazing.
But yeah, there's always both opposites going
Yeah,
everywhere in the
but
world.
there's still work. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
nice to do.
yeah,
I think it's really nice to do this show when it's shifting, because so today we're gonna talk also about what pets are teaching us as human beings. So there's also that use I would say like that, but it's amazing also. Yeah, for example, so we're gonna start to talk about this, but for example, my cat, she really taught me, for me it's the being that taught me what's unconditional love. It was, I was so connected to her that, yeah, it was amazing. I cannot even speak some words about this because, yeah, it's too, yeah, it was really. And then, yeah, she died 3 weeks before I would leave Rwanda, so it was really, yeah, a mess. I was a mess, but she also taught me about death, and that actually it's not, it's really difficult, but it's also beautiful. And I think it was also her message, because I think you had similar experiences, Rahim, but I was feeling her. So not when I was in Rwanda, but when I came back in Belgium, I was really feeling she's around, even seeing, not really seeing with my eyes, but really like, oh, and really repetitively during 1 or 2 weeks. And then, yeah, I did let her go because this would be a bit selfish to keep her, but yeah. So I think, I don't know if you have any other teachings that pets give you, like general ones?
Before I talk about what it taught me, I just want to use a quick example that's a very recent one. Very recently, we lost a cat at the clinic. We had a program where we would take cats from the street. We would ask people to bring cats from the street. We would castrate and then release them back on the streets, so they don't reproduce, because cat can reproduce very, very fast.
Yeah.
So we did that, and after we did the surgery to one of the cats, we released her. She never left. She stayed at the clinic.
Funny.
Right? So
Yeah.
we kind of, we adopted her. She adopted us, right? But in our team, in the at the clinic, nobody ever had a pet, and nobody ever had a cat. And I think having the cat at the clinic is kind of, right, it kind of made like, how can I say this? It was the pet of the clinic, and a lot of our team started to actually understand and appreciate the cat, because she was amazing. She would just come and lay down on the computer or beside or on your lap while you're working. She will watch other dogs and other animals. She was a very funny cat. And that has changed. I can tell you it has changed our team in how they see the animals, because for them it was the first time they ever had some companionship, if you want. They come to work almost every day. They can't have one at home because it's expensive, it takes time, it takes a lot of commitment. But that cat, I know, has affected how they see animals and how they see pets. And I think, yeah, so that's just an example. And then when we lost her a month and a half ago, you can see how the whole team was down for a couple of days.
Wow.
You could feel it, right? So we know that it actually made a difference to them. So, they come into our lives that maybe don't have to come for a long time, but they have to come for a lesson. I think all the animals I've had that I've lost, they were all a lesson for me in my life, and they helped me grow. And today we are taking care of 20 rescues right now, few cats, but mainly dogs, right? And so yeah, it's something we have to get used to, keep losing them. It sucks, but that's part of the growth, and that's part of it's part of life, and it kind of helps you grow. Yeah, so I think that's one thing it has taught us in Rwanda, how also why we want this, because we want people to understand you need a pet. You need a pet. It will help you. It's just hard, like you said, it's hard to put it in words. How it will help you, I don't know. But get one, care for it, and then see what happens to you. This is my advice to everyone in Rwanda and the world. I'm sure you have to be a pet, but that has changed them too.
It's my whole life, but definitely one of the biggest thing that being around pets and animals have really taught me is mainly being aware of the energy producing, like these animals, they can sense it if you're
Yeah.
in a bad mood, if you're angry, if you're
Yeah.
sad and all that, they sense it, and then you see how it affects them, right? So I mean, my first dog, Cody, that I ever had, well, that I ever brought home and my parents finally accepted. um, I would take her around on walks, and I remember if I was frustrated and angry and all that, she would be reacting quite aggressively to people. And then if I was in a good mood, she'd be very relaxed, and you can see that too. Like
Yeah.
they really like go with you. So it really made me aware of like your own energy and how it affects your environment and things like that. Um, and the thing also, big thing with dogs, it's like whenever you bring a pet at home, it's not just dogs. It's I think everybody has this picture the first time they bring a dog at home of how things will be when the puppy is finally grown or something like that. And the longer you stay with them, eventually you learn to pick your battles, type of thing, So they're never exactly how you expected them to be. But then, yeah, it's always a mess. You're like, oh, I want a dog that will be gentle, and then we can sit and watch movies at night and things like that. And then you end up with a crazy dog that won't let you sit in
Like a
peace.
cat.
Yeah, exactly. But then, it's really like eventually, like again, sometimes it annoys you, but then other times you learn to appreciate that they didn't really turn out as you wanted them to turn out, because then it brings out something special that you didn't even know you needed. So you just learn to start realizing what actually really matters in life. It's not that my dog can sit perfectly, for example. I mean, that's important, but there's a lot of other small things that matters much more than that. You don't need that Hollywood
Yeah.
movie type of perfect dog. It's we always say that you always end up with the dog you need, not the dog you want, really. So
This is true. I think there's no coincidence. Like the pets that you get is really the pet that you needed. What you're saying, but and that they needed us too. Like for me, there's really a match, and I also learned to be demanding. I was so demanding with my dog. I was like, oh wait, calm down, and and it taught me a lot too, but more about myself than my cat did. So my cat, it was more general teachings, but my dog, I had the impression to have a mirror in front of myself, and it was so hard for me. It was I thought that having a puppy would be easy, and so it's a lot of work to train him, but I was seeing stuff about myself that I didn't like. And it was really hard the first months. Now it's better. He's a bit more than one, but oh my goodness. So I did learn, like, for example, the way I've been raised, sometimes it was kind of violent. And then I saw that, oh, I also have that violence inside of me. Like, it was nice, better, and then I also had some things that I needed to learn, like to be more confident and a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's been tough. Now it's better. Still some work, and it's also building a duo.
We have to deal with these crazy expectations, and like as I
Yeah,
mentioned, with
yeah,
reality, people want these, like, TV dogs are protecting this and that, but they can't even walk the dog on leash. They can't even do the simplest things. They can't even
yeah.
build, really a good relationship with their dogs, which is the base, right? So yeah, and I mean, you have to deal, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
They do let us see our own darkness, the dogs,
Yeah,
the
it's not
animals.
easy to see.
I think I saw this at a very, very young age with my cats in Belgium, actually. You know, we all have this darkness. And, I've never done anything cruel to my cats, you know what I'm saying? But you know, sometimes you have these thoughts and then you realize it, it's so easy to hurt an animal. It's so easy
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
it. They're so vulnerable.
Mhm.
And because I understood this at a very young age, I was able to deal with it from then. And again, that's why today, you know, today in Rwanda, it's not just, you know, Pets Plus is not just a company to offer pet care. At the end of the day, we want to be the voice, we want to be the organization that fights for the protection, to protect these animals. This is really, I think this is really who I am, and this is why I'm here. It's to protect these animals, to give them a voice, to give them, you know, shelter, to give them whatever is needed. But just to say that there's so much you can learn, your good side from just having an animal, I think.
I think one of the big and scary things I also realized with my first dog, because I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of wrong things with her. It's
Yeah.
because of the things, again, the way I was raised. You know, if you are in the way we were raised, like culturally, I guess, and then the things you watch on the internet and all that, it's you know, it's not even that you're being abusive, it's that you meant to do good, but you don't know what that is, right? So you do that, you think they're good, and the scary part is that the dog just accepts it. You know, if I bring my puppy home and then I like spank her, for example, if she does something wrong. At first, she gets very frightened by that because it's new. But then after you do it like 10 times, they take it so normal, you know. You spank her now, you go inside the house, you come back, she's excited to see you again as if
Wow.
nothing happened, which is
Yeah.
kind of like fucked up, bitch, you know, but you
Yeah.
know, but again, it makes you also think about yourself, like
Oh, yeah.
the things you've accepted because they seem normal to you. But I mean, that's just the life you've been living, so it's normal to you in a way. But how much of it is not okay that you don't even know that it's not okay, you know? So looking back now, it's my dog is completely fine. It's as if it never happened and things like that. But for me, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that wasn't okay, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you kind of learn a lot of that, and then you reevaluate your own life and your own past experiences, and it helps you kind of like learn to move forward in a way, I guess. Yeah,
And then pass on that to the others so they don't make the same mistake.
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
As well. Yeah. Any other example of cat, dogs, whatever pets actually that could that did really teach you something but about yourself? Or
I think definitely my first one, Cody, and then the second one that I brought, his name is Bobby, because I really I knew much more the right way to raise a dog, I guess. So just to see the difference between the two and also the similarities, I guess, and also giving you a chance to also do things the right way and correcting, trying to at least correct the past mistakes you made and all that. So I mean, especially dogs, they don't take anything personal, so it gives you a much better chance to have that second chance and actually do things right again.
You know, like I always say, dogs prefer to get negative attention than no attention. So, like, you know, like you're talking about, you know, some people, you know, they beat their dogs as the way they train them, and the dog thinks that's normal, and they appreciate that because the other option is getting zero attention.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the worst thing you can do to a dog is ignore it. I mean, to the dog, right? But yeah, again, that's a problem. So then one thing I can say that I learned as well when I started dog training is I was following this guy I told you on TV, but he was using some methods that was very aggressive and that were quite aggressive, and I had to unlearn all this because I was also using them, not much. But as I was studying my program, I realized that is different than what is out there, which is also very scary because, you know, on the internet you find all kinds of crazy things, good and bad. And but yeah, so I had to relearn everything, how to treat, how to train, how to care for the dogs. You know, we give, you know, the kind of food we give from everything, everything. This is one thing that I guess I can say that I learned as well is we, you know, being in the industry of pets, so many things are offered. There are
in everything,
they are useless and they're just to make money. Like you know, we're talking about you can have a dog that can do a sit and a down and they can be, you know, robots, but they are fearful dogs. They are aggressive dogs, right? What is more, and people are willing to pay to have a robot that's aggressive. And we are again trying to change. We're trying to do the opposite, where it's what you need versus what you want. And then that's what having a pet is about. So that's something that I guess we learned as well along the way is to the way we are seeing how things should be versus how it is very different.
I think also you don't know what it is, like you don't know what it is to have a dog, like, or you don't really properly know dogs until you get one. And still, there's some more, but I can see here, for example, people, so it's a bit the contrary than in Rwanda, that people would just go towards your dog to pet him directly, like, so it's really the contrary. But for example, mine, he's reactive, he's scared of people, like he would bark, and no, you don't do this. So it's also funny that if you don't have one, you don't really understand. Like really the way to understand is to get one and start the journey, I think.
Another thing I guess I learned about not just myself, but again, for me, it's beyond myself, right? Because it's the whole industry, the world, how it is with animals. I think this is something that I was very naive about, ignorant about. I didn't know until I had my dog in Toronto, which was in 2009. I didn't know what was happening in the world of pets, right? I didn't know there were shelters. I knew there were shelters, but I didn't know how many there were and why they were there. I didn't understand why people give up their dogs, for example. I didn't understand that if dogs are not adopted, they get euthanized. I didn't understand that the breeding industry is ruining, is causing this. I didn't understand people buying dogs. You know, there was this whole dark side of the industry that I didn't know about. Even the, you know, shelters, breeding, and even mistreatment. I didn't know that people actually abuse dogs. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know how bad it was. The percentage is actually very, very huge. The numbers are pretty sad because I've watched a lot of shows and documentaries about that. And that is something that motivated me to fight, really. That again, I'm talking about that, but I think that's where it kind of woke me up. It's having a pet woke me up, not just about, you know, the mistreatment of pets, but of animals and people in general, right? And it starts with you can make a difference. And I think that's probably the one thing that I learned that has changed me the most. You know, it's a reason today I study dog training to you know, that I open a clinic to offer better, you know, care that is mostly like, you know, mostly related to caring for the animal, healing it, preventing. But yeah, this is one thing I can say I learned about dogs, and then I'll finish with myself.
I think for me again, it's just like, I guess dog psychology, people psychology is that when you're working with training people and training dogs, you realize very quickly that it's really hard for people to look into themselves. Something goes wrong, they will look elsewhere. You know, maybe it's not the right dog, maybe it's my staff's issue, maybe it's the trainer's issue. It's really hard to like maybe I am the
Mhm.
issue, right? And I mean, a lot of people will say like, yeah, I know I'm the issue, but they don't really mean it. Like they don't really understand that they can't be the issue. So it's really hard to look within. And again, as a trainer or as pretty much anybody in the service industry, if you try to the way you approach them, most people will become very defensive. So you have to learn better
Yeah.
ways to navigate around that in a way. So it really takes a lot of, it teaches you to have a lot of understanding, you understand the other person, understand the dog. And
Yeah.
also big thing is each case is different, whether it's with the dog, whether it's with the owner, every case is different. So as much as possible, you have to be in the moment. You have to approach it with that kind of like page type of things to be most effective, I guess. So, and I mean, as people, as the whole industry is really changing, people are also trying. It's also new to them. So a lot of mistakes are being made. It's sometimes it's nobody's fault. Other times people do really mess up. But
Yeah.
but for the most part, a lot of people are trying and they're making mistakes and all that. So we try to also approach it without condemning people to just again, it's more
Yeah.
of leading, judging, I guess, in a way. Yeah.
Like you're talking about having customers that don't want to accept that it was their fault. I know I raised some dogs and I made mistakes, and I know it's my fault at the end of the day. Part of it is my fault as the
Mm-hmm.
dog owner, or as the you know the dog parent, if you want. So yeah, like it is a reflection of ourselves. We have to also fix ourselves, and I think that's something that people need to also learn. Because if you are not stable, and then you're putting that on your dog, guess what's going to
Yeah.
happen to your dog, right?
I have the feeling that actually dog training is more about the human behind the dog than the dog. Really, I felt that I came back from Rwanda with my dog in Belgium, and then I found a new trainer because sorry guys, but you're not in Belgium, and I think within 5 minutes it seemed clear about me, like seriously, and it's so not comfortable that someone tells you you don't have enough self-confidence or some things like that, or you don't trust your dog enough, and you're like again. And also usually when there's an issue with the dog, it's because the owner is not behaving properly with the dog, not training the right way, or things like that. So I think your job actually in dog training is more about the person than the dog, like also the connection with the two, but also helping the person be a better dog owner than the dog be a better dog, because if we do correctly, I think they're always good. So yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a very good point.
yeah, this is what I learned through this year of being dog owner.
Yeah, it's challenging to be a dog owner.
So challenging. Yeah. So yeah, and I cannot even imagine what it is to have a child, because already just with a dog, it's so much. Then yeah, it's learning so much, and yeah.
You're talking about child. I have a daughter, so I remember I used to say this too. Is I use some of the methods, the mental. I don't use the methods of training. I don't make my dog sit, my daughter sit for me. But just the whole mentality of it, and like establishing trust with your dog, establishing certain things. Actually, a lot of these concepts
Yeah.
work with humans, not just kids, but also as a company, as an employer. I also use some of these skills, I guess,
Yeah,
to
it's
train
true.
my staff, to lead my staff, and it works. It really works. Right? So here's another thing I
Nice.
learned that I forgot. So, and yeah, and we both manage a lot of people, and those skills actually help. You know, being a dog lead, the training a dog helps being a good leader. Actually,
It's
it
true.
really helps.
And I remember Ineza had sent me a YouTube channel of Victoria Stilwell. So I was really watching a lot of videos to learn more about how to train my dog and stuff like that. And then I was at a dinner with people, and there were kids, and there was one that was really not behaving properly, but actually was just asking to have more attention from his mother and doing stupid things to get it. And I was like, this is exactly what I learned also with the dogs. That they would rather, what you were saying before, but they would rather get negative attention than not get attention at all. And this was the same. And then I told her, hey, so it was really funny because it works also. Not everything works with humans, but yeah, you also get some tricks and some ways of understanding the behavior than before.
Some of the concepts are the same.
Yeah. I think we can conclude this interview. So if you want to talk a bit about your vision of the future of pet industry in Rwanda. So you had said that there is a shift now that's happening, that people are starting to see pets also as companions and not just workers, let's say like that. So if you can conclude on this, and probably also the future of Pets Plus, that I think is linked with that vision you have of the future of pet industry in Rwanda.
Yeah, I would say kind of like the way the future looks, it's especially for in terms of again like training and all that. So for training, it always goes with why people are having pets in the first place, because that also affects the mentality, and then the mentality of the owners also affects the dogs. So like a lot of people here, like if somebody gets like special breed, for example, like a Labrador, most people who get like Labradors or Golden Retrievers, they have this kind of like, they're looking for a friendly dog, so they will act friendly around the dogs. And then for somebody like kind of like typically people who get like these massive breeds, like or like these really tough dogs like pit bulls and all that, they have a different state of mind, like I want a scary dog, and then they act like that with them too. So those breeds, they end up becoming a certain way. So I think one of the things we're trying hard to really do is changing that perspective and actually making people realize those things. So it's not like a particular breed, it's just the way it's associated in a way that also affects the breed itself. And a lot of trends that also affects the way people, why people want dogs. And I remember there was a huge case with the US, which also keeps happening, like the movie with the German Shepherd taking care of kids and rescuing kids and all that. So like after it came out, everybody wanted German Shepherds. And then there was also another case with the Game of Thrones, for example, and everybody started getting like huskies and these dogs that look off and all that. And then you get home, you realize that it's not going to be
what you
that
want.
that kind of and then there's a they get dumped, which is unfortunate. So we're hoping maybe we can get ahead of that. So the industry is here, it's really growing. A lot of people, almost everywhere you go, every gate almost here, they have dogs. And then again, it's for very different reasons. So it looks like there's a big risk of getting into that place where we have a lot of abandoned dogs, a lot of dogs with issues and aggressive issues. and all that. So, but it's not too much there, so we can still actually stop it before it happens. So that's why we are really aiming for to see if we can get ahead of it and again educate people and just also our staff have a huge impact on that because they're the ones
Mm.
who actually talk to a lot of people where they walk around. So
Yes.
interaction is also very key. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just quickly to add a little bit to that is, for example, I had a dog, I had a German Shepherd that I adopted that passed away as well,
Mm.
unfortunately, about a year ago. And like you were talking about how people want breeds. So the first thing my guard said, because he's the one who takes care of my dog when this dog died, is like, can we get another of the same dog, right? So the mentality is if I get the dog that looks like that, it will have the same, yeah, same behavior, same
Yeah.
mentality. It doesn't work that way. So that's why people get German Shepherds because they see on TV this. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Because they're associated with the wrong thing or because they're associated with their own past. You know, I had a great dog that looked like that, so I'm going to have a new one that looks like that when it's not
Okay.
necessary, right? All the dogs that I have today, all of them came to me. I didn't go and find them. I didn't go buy them. I didn't go search for a breed. They just all rescues, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the best thing that happened because I'm actually learning more from them than, like I
Yeah.
said, they come to your life for a reason. I think that's something that's interesting. And yeah, they do teach you a lot about, you know, being mindful, being present. Another thing you talked about is that your issue that you were having is you have to know when to lead your dog and you have to know when to follow your dog because you can actually
Mm.
learn from your dog by just following. What does he or she want? What do they look for? What motivates them? What do they not like? What causes fear? And then you
Yeah.
work with that, right? But the mistake is we are trying to control the dog, do what I tell you, you know,
Yeah.
walk where I walk, walk as I walk, do as I say, you know, and then that's when the relationship breaks. So, as I was saying, this is what we are trying to change here. Uh, I think that's a lot of his role when he speaks to new customers, especially when we have, because most of our customers are actually, when we started, I would say 95 to 90 to 100 to 99% was foreigners. And
Mm.
today I would say about maybe a third, two-thirds are foreigners. So a third of our customers are now the Rwandan
This is
market.
nice. Yeah.
It's very different. The approach is very different, right? Especially those that have never left the country or have been too exposed to the online presence of what a dog is in 2022. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenge Ineza is facing with these new customers that have never had dogs before. They don't know what they don't know what they need, uh, and they really come with nothing, so we have to teach them from zero,
Mm-hmm.
from vet care to training, feeding to everything. But again, this is the education that we are doing. We teach one person, they teach another person, and the word passes on, and it's booming. So I think we're going quite. I think we're doing quite a. We're having quite an impact in how people are taking care of their pets, and this is our goal. This is our goal, but this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
So the vision for Pets Plus is to have more branches, to offer this kind of services in a more holistic way around the country and even
Yeah. Yeah.
around maybe a few different countries. We are looking into expanding into other countries and
Mm.
just to do things a little bit differently than everywhere else. Uh, what else is in the future for Pets Plus?
Uh, I think again, just to add on that again, one of the big thing I think we're trying to do is just preserving dogs. We love dogs because they're dogs, but then we bring them home and we're trying to change them into something they're not. So, and again, a huge part of it is we look at a small portion of what they are. So again, if you look at, for example, training videos on the like channels of some trainers on YouTube channels again, you will see that the dog is so well behaved, they're doing everything they're telling them to do. But that's just an hour-long video, right? That's not how the dog is forward. So
True.
you're looking at a very small portion. So then you want that dog to be like that. I mean, if you look at any dog that you live with, if you take small clips of them throughout the day, you can have a really good 1 hour video that will make people think that this dog is perfect, you know. But then you don't show the other 23 hours where the dog is pooping, you know, like people don't think they see a cute puppy on the internet, they don't think that the puppy poop, you know, the puppy will chew things, the will
This is
shed,
so
you know,
true, yeah.
the fluffy dog and things like that. And then maybe like sometimes you will enjoy her having you actually spend more time cleaning a dog's fur than you spend petting the dog's fur sometimes, you know. It's everywhere, you know. When you wear clothes, it's for me, we always have fur like on our clothes because we work with them. So it's just people understanding that most of the time what they see on the internet is just a small portion, and you got to see the whole picture. And we're really trying to get people to learn to appreciate the rest too, you know.
Yeah.
Like just having a dog for what it is, for just being a dog. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah,
So,
so
yeah.
so it's good. Like, you know, we have so many employees now, and you know, before there was a point we couldn't even find employees because they didn't know anything about dogs. They didn't want to work with dogs, and now we have a surplus of people who want a job working with that.
Wow.
And again, that's where the shift. People are interested now in working in the industry. So yeah, the future of the pet industry is interesting. It's not all good because again, with the good, there's also bad. You know, the amount of abuse, the amount of breeding, the amount of abandonment, all that. So this is where we are trying to go in the future. Is we are actually I am looking into opening a shelter one day that will be funded by Pets Plus, run by Pets Plus. At the end, that's what we want. It's the ultimate goal in, not the ultimate goal, but one of the ultimate goals of our companies to be able to fund for that as well. Um, so that we can educate more, we can prevent more of this. Because that's all it is at the end of the day. I think is the major issue is the lack of education or the
Yeah.
abundance of
Yeah, a lot of misinformation.
yes, internet is dangerous in that sense, right? So thank God for you to let
Yeah,
us talk
welcome.
about our truth so that people can.
Yeah, it's a pity we couldn't record it while I was still in Rwanda, but fortunately we can do a nice, we could do a nice interview, and I'm happy I can give you the opportunity to show what you're doing, because I was really happy with the service. And then I think it's a really nice way to see that their purpose is also to teach us something, but we also do teach them stuff, and we evolve, like we are together in our own path. And yeah, so thank you also for being there, for doing that really huge work in Rwanda, because I think so. I was so grateful your services were there when I was in Rwanda, because otherwise your pet is sick and what do you do? Or it was my first dog that I took there, and if there weren't coaching sessions, then I think I would just go crazy, guys. So it's really nice, and also also to teach the community. I think there's still a lot of work, and that's to go with the dogs, to walk the dogs. I didn't even think that actually it's sensitization already to see someone walking a dog. So it's really nice to see that, and I'm looking forward to the future of the pet industry in Rwanda and the future of Pets Plus, that I think is bright. So thanks for having been here. And yeah, I put the link of your website under the video, and I think for me that's all. Thank you so much.
No, we're glad to have helped you with your experience with your pets, your first experience with pets. So yeah, so see, that's why we are here. So yeah, thank you for this interview.
I think to conclude, it's I mean the Rwanda as the industry of Rwanda, it has really come far, and there's still like a long way to go. But it's through discussion like this that we actually make sure that we are heading the right way and we stick to the kind of path, I guess. So yeah, we do appreciate you for doing this. Yeah.
Thank you too. Okay, so bye bye.
Bye-bye.